do it. I'm at the precipice of either huge success or the opposite. Now, I don't really believe in failure. The opposite to me is just the opposite. And often what people see as failure is really just a super valuable learning curve. Whether you're a creative professional, an entrepreneur, no matter what you do, embrace failure, because at the other side of a failure, there's a tremendous amount of growth. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have experienced that yourself. Now, this video is going to be very different from the content I've normally been producing on this channel. It's going to be raw and straight from the heart. I've been meaning to do this type of content for some time now because the whole purpose of this channel in the first place was to show you what's going on within my startups. And I feel like I've been holding back. A lot of people put on this facade, I believe, that building a tech startup is glamorous. And despite Collabify being VC backed, we raised $2 million in 2021. It's not as glamorous as what it seems. Things are hard right now. Things are tough. Both me and my wife, we work remotely. We've got 2 children, a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. We live in one of the most expensive cities, London, where sometimes you're made to feel like even the air is expensive. And it's challenging. And more than anything, running a startup in our times, there's so much competition. And it's really hard to acquire product market fit where you get consistent and sustainable growth. We're struggling with that so much. And so really I'm going to dive into all of that, where things are at the moment and how I'm thinking about our future. So let's dive straight in. All right, let's get into the whole context of everything, right? So the main thing I work on pretty much full time is Collabify. Collabify is my VC-backed startup. We got backed in 2021 by Fuel Ventures, which is a phenomenal VC, along with a smaller VC and other angels. I started building Collabify in 2016. We launched in 2019. We did great revenues then, and then we got back in 2021. And to this day, we're still building it. And our best case scenario is to get an exit or raise our next round so that we can take it to the next phase of growth. We don't have the metrics to raise our next round, which would either be a larger seed or Series A. I'll get into the context of that in a moment, but we launched this in 2019. That's the company I work on full time. It is a graphic design tool for e-commerce entrepreneurs and business owners and digital marketers, helping them scale and automate their visual marketing assets, right? And so that's Collabify. You can see when we launched, it was a different time, man, to launch software. 2019, $18,000 upon launch. The following month, September 2019, we generated $174,000. And then following that, $94,000. November, $150,000. December, $86,000, and so on and so forth, which is incredible, right? I'd never seen that much money for any product launch I'd done in the past. And prior to this was my first software launch, which is incredible. It was just a different time. It was not as competitive. We embraced the whole early adopter strategy, which is a very specific playbook that I've been researching, where you create a lifetime deal for an early adopter user base, and you create a bit of pre-launch hype, and you launch your own product hunt, and you tap into the early adopter community base, which exists primarily on Facebook groups. However, these communities are not as engaged as they were in 2019 as they are now. Perhaps I'll do another video with deeper context in terms of what led me to building Collabify and the whole launch strategy behind it. But to move on, we launched at 2.0 in November 2020, and that led to another lifetime deal sale, which generated substantial revenue. And this time we kept the lifetime deal going on for a few more months. It was a successful strategy overall because we're generating anywhere between $40,000 to $50,000 every single month. We closed us a $2 million pre-seed round in 2021, and then we proceeded to really dive deep into product and start to focus on building and innovating within the product level. This is the time it took us to build the new 3.0. And then finally, we did another lifetime sale, which by this time, the early adopter community was dying down, especially for our tool category as a design tool. And so we pivoted back to our MRR model, but because we had a free plan and a lot of tools are free, like Canva, it wasn't really scaling as how we would hope. So in February 2024, we pivoted to a card on trial model. This was our decline in monthly recurring revenue. By the time we hit February 2024 and switched to that card on trial, we started to get a little bit more traction, a little bit of growth, but then it really has flatlined since then at $2,800 revenue. I mean, you can see some upwards trend, but it's just nowhere at the scale we need to thrive as a SaaS company. And so we're really struggling there. Now, alongside of that, I'm building with another group of colleagues, Blitzit. Blitzit is a little productivity tool that helps you turn all of your tasks into an actionable, focused to-do list. And it's got cool features like Pomodoros, it's got gamification built into the user experience to really make you focus on your tasks and get more done. It's got built-in analytics, you can integrate Notion now and Google Calendar and a bunch of other cool things to come. We're really pumped about this. This started in 2022. And to give you context of why this started, we're going through a tough time revenue-wise, of trying everything to grow Glorify. And my second son was born in May 2022, and I had my paternity leave. And I took this time as an opportunity to kind of just completely disconnect from Glorify. And I had this burning idea and desire to build a productivity tool. I had all the ideas in my mind, I just never executed it. And I finally found the mind space to put it together. And essentially it's just an amalgamation of a bunch of different productivity tools that I love. So I can't really take credit for those, but then I kind of reimagined it in my own way into Blitzit. And it so happened to be that during my paternity leave, I took a design bootcamp, for UI UX design bootcamp to better my skills in Figma. I'm a designer, so I already know how to use Figma, but I wanted to really get into design systemization and prototyping. And so that was a great time to also take that opportunity to really flesh out what's this idea and concept in my mind, which was Blitzit today. And as part of the case study project that I was working on during the bootcamp, I actually fleshed out a fully tactile, interactive prototype of Blitzit. And by the end of that, I was quite proud of what I'd achieved, and I showed it to my developer friend, Ronak, who took a look at it and he fell in love immediately. And immediately he started brainstorming the type of tech stack we would require to build this application. So he co-founded with me and he brought in a couple of other resources, his development team. I'd already designed the entire MVP of what this product was gonna be. So, I didn't have much to do. So I was really passing it on to Ronak to build it. And then I spoke to our board and mentioned that I'm working on this other product. And approximately it would take me 2 hours a week of my time to work on this. And I was gonna be doing this around my free time, and the board had no issue with that because of course I'm going to be public about this too, and thankfully they didn't have an issue with that. So I pursued to build Blitzit part-time as a side hustle to my main hustle, right? If I go to Blitzit, complete different story. We launched that in 2023 and it's gaining really nice and consistent growth. Slow growth, the MRR is slow. I mean, $600 is not a lot of MRR, but look at that beautiful curve. It's an upwards trend. And on top of that, we also have a lifetime deal running next to the MRR model. So the monthly plan is $4.99, which is very affordable and attracts a wider audience base. But you know what? If you really believe in our tool and you really want to commit to it, we got a $97 plan, which really offsets that LTV value for the MRR plan because they're essentially giving us more than 12 months worth of money in advance compared to the monthly plan, right? Since we just launched it about 8 months ago, it really works in our favor. We get that cash up front. And we also have a 30% off campaign running right now with a coupon code. And so it works out even cheaper at $67. So that's 12 months worth of the monthly plan. You'll see we've generated since November or October 2023, we've generated over $47,000. Leading up to our launch, we did a pre-launch campaign, and that's what generated all this revenue, the spike that you see over here. Then the launch hype died down, and then we were trying to figure out our next marketing move. And from here, what we did is we started running ads. We got a lot of UCG type content, and we started running them as ads, and that's scaling really well, growing this revenue that you see over here. So Blitzit is doing well. Collabify started as a result that Glorify was struggling with revenue-wise. We'd raised in 2021, but we didn't get the traction we hoped we would get, and we'd hired a larger team by then, and so our overhead was catching up. So we went back to the drawing board and started to brainstorm ideas on how we can generate more revenue, essentially. And that's why the idea of Collabify came in. Initially, it was called Together.design, but we had a conflict of interest with another design agency based in the UK called Together, so we rebranded to Collabify. Now, Collabify is a UI UX design service that allows startups to gain access to vetted, trained bootcamp designers at a flat fixed fee. The reason we started this was because during that summer, we wanted to really own product design internally in-house, and prior to that, we'd use agencies and freelancers to design our product. And so a lot of us are designers, including myself. So a lot of us have in-house design skills, but we weren't great at design systemization and prototyping. And so to take on this ownership, we ran our main designers within the team, including myself, to get trained in UI UX design with Figma. We came out of those boot camps with essentially superpowers. We're able to now design products faster and better. We started Collabify on that basis. And so it's a subscription service to give startups access to UI UX design talent. And that's how it was positioned. And instantly as we launched it, we started getting traction. I think by month 2, we crossed $10,000 in MRR. Now the average order value on the low end was $3,999. On the Plus plan, which is the high end, would be $7,999, which of course is a much larger ticket size to what we were used to with Glorify. And eventually as time went, we noticed our LTV reached around $15,000. On average, each customer would stay with us for 3 months. And the Plus plan was averaging at around 1 to 2 months, which was fantastic, right? And between 2022 and 2023, we generated over $200,000 in revenue and with a 50% to 60% margins, right? Which is fantastic. We were really happy with that. And it really helped us cover the overhead for Glorify. So one thing I would say about this is that it was a service that was plugging the hole on Glorify. Now, if this was a standalone service, this business would have thrived, right? Not that it didn't thrive, it's just that we had very little money to now hire a sales team and get SDRs to really grow this company. We're more using it to cover the cost of Glorify, the overheads, the dev team, the marketing team, etc. And so I do look at this sometimes with a little bit of regret, thinking, I wish we'd built this business as a standalone business because it'd be generating amazing profits, and then just perhaps scale down the team in Glorify and manage the overhead better, right? That was a big mistake. But regardless, it was an interesting business model and it still runs today. We're not proactive on this because during 2022 and 2023 were our best years. Since then, we've slowed down a lot because we're really focusing on trying to grow Glorify and get a potential acquisition, which I'll speak about later. And Collabify is just there as sort of sitting there in the back burner, but it still runs today and we have a couple of dedicated clients, which is managed by a colleague of ours. So that's Collabify. Now, these are sort of the main, I'd say, companies that are built over the last couple of years. We've done other companies in the past adjacent to Glorify as part of the Glorify ecosystem or team. We've done LogoFlow, which was a failed product. You can go check it out. It's still live, called logoflow.io. It was meant to be a logo designer that can automate and generate your branding. It didn't really pick up, but it still sits there. And then we also built ZapBG, which is an AI background removal tool, which also failed and now is made completely redundant. So I just thought I'd just share that. That was done between 2019 and 2022, right? So these are redundant, okay? So these other companies still exist. Now, alongside of this, there's other stuff going on, right? So let's talk about that. So in 2022, I started my personal brand. Now let's give you the context of why I started the personal brand. Well, in 2021, we had a podcast at Glorify called Path to Glory. I interviewed Philip Van Dusen, who's a contemporary brand expert, awesome guy. So much experience behind his back. He's just a brilliant person to speak to and learn from. And speaking to him, he told me something that has stuck with me to this day, that building a personal brand is like building an undying asset. It's essentially an insurance policy.
I strongly advocate that people develop some sort of a personal brand presence outside of the company or agency that they work for, because it is an insurance policy.
It's the best way to describe it. I totally agree. A personal brand will always live, whereas the industry could shift and move and your businesses can go up and down, but your personal brand will always live, right? That audience you built, the reputation. You can always pivot with a personal brand. You can always change the messaging because the personal brand, the product is essentially just you. Now, despite learning this in 2021, I really only started taking action on it in 2022. And the reason I actually took action on it was because Glorify wasn't in the best place. And I thought, if things don't work, I should have something to fall back on. And what's also powerful about building a personal brand, it also helps your other businesses thrive, right? If you think about it, some of the best companies are built around personal brands, right? If you think of Xander Whittlehurst, who built Memorizely, probably the best education platform for UI UX designers, right? Completely self-sustained, no VC funding is required, and it's a thriving business. Likewise, you have business owners like Simon Hoiberg, who's a SaaS founder. He has SaaS companies that are thriving. Chris Do, who's built an amazing personal brand. He's got his educational platform, The Future. There's so many companies that you can pick out that have become successful due to it being led by a personal brand, right? And so this is where I started to really focus on my personal brand. Now, I started my personal brand on Instagram, on TikTok, creating short form content about just remote work. It was not so much informative content, it was more aesthetic first content, showing myself working in my home office and just taking different aesthetic shots of my process. And interestingly, this type of content was really trending in 2022 because post-COVID, a lot of people are interested in remote first work. And I guess a lot of people are curious of what, a productive environment would look like at home. 2022, I had barely any followers. Within 6 months, leading to 2023, I'd crossed 1,000 followers. From there, I started doing a lot of unboxing content, such as unboxing products like this, peripheral devices, cases for your AirPods, power banks. This is a great power bank by Charge, by the way, which is a great company. So a lot of these boutique e-commerce brands would send creators like ourselves free products for us to create content on. So it would be either an unboxing video or an explainer video about the product, sort of a showcase, product review type of video. And I'll do this type of content in my spare time, and my followers would grow. And as I built relationships, creating content for them, I'd also pitch Glorify as a e-commerce graphic design tool for their businesses. It was definitely working in terms of the personal brand I had in mind to get that broad following. And doing this type of generic content is great to get faster growth, faster traction, because the type of content is quite relatable to a wider audience, right? It's targeting anyone that wants a very productive setup at home, which essentially can be any professional that works remote, right? So it's great. And so I started that type of content 2022, 2023. Now I currently sit at 56,000 followers on Instagram, 36,000 followers on TikTok. And I also do the same type of content in my YouTube shorts as you see in this channel, right? And currently my YouTube channel has 10K followers. The main reason I've acquired followers and subscribers for this YouTube channel is through the content I've produced on figma. Very likely you're watching this video because of that content that I've produced, right? So that's my personal brand story. What's really cool about this is that since 2023, as my personal brand started growing, I got more partnership deals for e-commerce companies. So I have tons of unboxing content that you can see on Instagram and TikTok and even on YouTube. And that's why you can see over here, I've got a ton of different boxes to this day. And on average, I get 5 to 6 partnerships per month through these channels now. What's really cool is that all this type of content has resulted in me gaining an additional 50% in increase of my personal income, which is really cool because this is something I do in my spare time. It doesn't take me a lot of effort to create this type of content. I'm really just using my mobile phone and I'm just shooting a quick unbox and showcase of the product itself, and then I'm posting it on Instagram. Literally, that's the process, creating a caption and hashtags, and you launch it. On average, it takes me per video from anywhere between 1 hour to 2 hours per video, which is great. And oftentimes I do this on the weekend. So it's a great side hustle. On top of that, I got other creator opportunities from software companies too. I had Wix reach out to me. I've had Scrintle, another software company, reach out to me. Riverside.fm reach out to me, all wanting to collaborate with me on content, both on Instagram and on YouTube and on other platforms, right? And so those collaborations were even better in terms of ticket size per content. Now, if you consider all of that, the additional income that I've gained from software collaborations as well as e-commerce company collaborations, I've probably done an additional 70 to 100% increase in additional personal income outside of my full-time income. And so that's the personal brand. So I've got the personal brand and I've got my companies. Now, there's something else that needs to be said, which is digital products. I love digital products, okay? The cool thing about digital products is that it's not as complicated as software, right? And that's the huge advantage. Now, I'd like to say I started really getting into digital products. It's kind of backwards because I started a software company first. But as my creative brand started growing, I met a great friend of mine today called Radislav Bali. We met through sort of Instagram in 2022, 2023. And we first collaborated on a Framer template for the creator community. It was called Creator Kit. And we launched that, and that did a little bit of revenue, which was really nice to see. It was very fulfilling, right? It didn't do like enormous revenue, but it was great to see that you can make something and put it out there and it generates revenue. And since then, I've been following other creators that launch digital products too. Very recently, I launched another Figma template that's proceeded to do very decent revenue. It's called Wisdom, right? And I'll be dropping some videos in this YouTube channel about Wisdom soon as well. It's a documentation template for startups and tech companies. It's got an abundance of features for your documentation ecosystem or your knowledge ecosystem for your users, right? And so I've made over 19 sales at $67. That's generated me over the last 2 to 3 months close to an additional $1,300 in revenue plus. So that's really cool. That's exciting. That the fact that I can generate revenue like that, put a template out there and it just makes revenue while I sleep. I've done that effort once and I put it out there. There's no support, unlike software. And so that for me is very fulfilling. And so I keep looking at this and thinking more about digital products too. And I always get this idea that what if I bundle a lot of templates together? And that's one of the reasons I actually bought a domain called figmafunnels.com, right? So I bought figmafunnels.com with this idea in mind that what if I create this template platform. Now, Figma have their own template marketplace where my template Wisdom is listed and my other template with Rad, and that generates revenue. But it's always nice to own your own channels, right? And I always think that this is a thriving community and it's very early right now, and I think there's a gold mine to be dug here. And one of the reasons that I bought this is that it'd be so cool to create a platform where we create these high converting landing pages. I feel like that's underserved within the Figma marketplace. And I'd love to create a platform that is dedicated to those type of templates. And imagine creating now a bundle deal and then launching that on Black Fridays. I feel that that could be a great impulse buy. And I feel that's an amazing business model, right? You could generate tons of revenue from that. Now that you know the whole context of where I'm at, I'm building all these companies, I have all these opportunities in front of me. I definitely have a bit of a case of shiny object syndrome. Let's see and try to analyze what's the best opportunity. And this is where potentially I could get your feedback in the comments to know which one you feel is the best one to pursue, right? My next big goal is to generate $300,000. If I can generate $300,000, then all my companies will thrive. Because it'll sustain the team, we can put that into growth and put it into the things that we can definitely see are actually working and helping us grow our revenue, right? So how do we get to $300,000 fast? And there's different opportunities. And Collabify has probably 4 months in the tank, right? Blitzit, the runway is okay, but it's not generating enough revenue to generate $300,000 really fast unless we change the strategy a little bit. So let's analyze all these opportunities, okay? So Collabify, how can we generate something substantial? As you notice, historically, we've done very successful with lifetime sales, right? Early adopter strategies, right? Now, we're not an early adopter tool now anymore. We've been in the market for a long time, so it's hard to position ourselves like that. But you can almost position ourselves in a way that, hey, look, we're running another campaign because we've done all these new developments and we want to celebrate those new developments that we've released, right? And so we've done things like animation recently, which is a new frontier. We've integrated AI tools too. So we could use this as an opportunity to celebrate and launch a lifetime deal. We can launch a lifetime deal at average sale price $197. I think that's the sweet spot. That's about 1,522 sales. So our mailing list is 300,000 at the moment. Now, a lot of them are very inactive people. If we run a newsletter, not a lot of people open our emails. But those are the people that proactively signed up to Collabify, right? Regardless. And so we have that list. And maybe it's about adjusting the email campaign strategy to get a better open rate. But that is an asset. And every time we've ran deals, we'd use the email list to generate decent revenues, right? So that's one strategy. Another strategy is Blitzit. So Blitzit is growing consistently. Okay, this whole productivity area of Pomodoros and focus. I'm excited about this space, and people are very excited about this space. People are distracted. They need ways to stay in focus and stay in flow states, and that's what Blitzit is selling. And it's entertaining, it's gamified, it's fun, right? And people are buying it, and we're getting amazing feedback. People love the tool. Based on that kind of customer feedback and interaction, we're running ads, it's scaling, we're getting anywhere between 2x, 3x ROI. We could probably do an early adopter campaign. So early adopter, and we could try different strategies like close down the front-facing sale and make it a limited access where they put their email and they have to go through a few loops to actually acquire the product. Once they get acquired, we shoot them a very limited deal available and something, we can go along those lines. Or we can even give the product for free over a prolonged period of time, and lead it up to this one date where the free option will no longer exist and where they have to buy the plan. For example, it could be on Black Friday, and Black Friday is approaching us. We're currently in August. We could do a campaign like that, a pre-launch campaign leading to this one date that the sale will go on, and perhaps the sale will run for probably a week before the entire sale closes down. And after that, there won't even be a lifetime option anymore. There'll only be an annual plan and a monthly plan. So we can do strategies like that, create more FOMO and hype. But let's look at the maths. If we do that, let's say the lifetime deal at the discounted level will go at $67 right now. So at $67 per sale, we need roughly 4,477 customers to buy. It's not a huge number, but I don't know if we can achieve that. There's a lot of variables and a lot of unknowns, right? It all comes down to how much hype we build, what kind of communities we get our foot into. And so there's a lot of things that we have to think about. And I know the formula is there because I've done it on Glorify, and I think this space is still thriving, right? People want more ways to focus better and get better results out of their workday. So this is very tempting, and we're seeing a good positive trajectory on revenue with minimal effort. So it's a good sign. Now, the other option is, for those of you guys who follow me, you know that I create a lot of content on Framer. All of our websites, all my startups' websites are built in Framer. And so we have a lot of Framer expertise. I made a Framer template, and that's generating revenue. And so I recently acquired framerfunnels.com. And the idea here is to create a whole library of high converting landing pages. I think it's an underserved area within the Framer template marketplace. With my team, we could probably build anywhere up to 100 of these templates, and then we bundle them in a one-time cost. So create 100 landing pages for a wide range of niches and products and services. Focus on that sales funnel experience, landing page to cart pages to purchase pages and things like that. If we did create 100 templates and they're beautiful and they're jewel worthy, we can position it at either maybe $1,999 or even $997. One of these figures that look really attractive. At that price point, all you need is 300 sales. Just 300 sales. It's a lot of work though. We had to build 100 beautiful templates. I could do this with my team, but there's also a few unknowns and variables, and whether or not the community would bite, and whether the market actually exists, or is it all in my head? Because a lot of this is through gut feeling and through observance. I've seen people request it, and I've seen a sort of organic demand, but I haven't really done surveys to get real data for this, right? But it's just a theory, right? And so, and it's an amazing theory if we could make that work. So we got Framer Funnels. There's one more thing. So I spoke about my personal brand that I've been doing on Instagram and TikTok, and now on YouTube as well. In essence, becoming a part-time creator, as mentioned earlier, I've increased my personal income by an additional 100%. So you can increase your income by between 50% to 100%, right? And that's really exciting to me, because the fact of the matter is all it takes is maybe 1 hour, 2 hours of your day per day, and you can build a following easily on Instagram, TikTok if you follow certain principles. And that's amazing, right? And because, as mentioned, building a personal brand is an undying asset and is a super valuable asset. And so I can teach this. I can teach about how to make content creation such a low barrier effort by using your mobile phone. To this day, I use my iPhone to produce all the content across all my channels. And sometimes people look at that content and they don't even know I'm using an iPhone. They actually think that I'm using some kind of professional DSLR camera. Pretty much all the content I've launched on Instagram and TikTok was edited on my phone using mobile editing apps like Video Leap. I can teach this in the course, and I have a sort of working title, which is the part-time creator program, right? And so with the part-time creator program, people will learn all of my frameworks to figuring out content ideas, how to align your interests with your expertise, with your home setup, how to create a very aesthetic setup that looks great on camera, how to make content creation effortless, how to produce high quality content, like all these things I can pack into this program, including how to get exposure to brands who want to collaborate with you, as well as how to create an outreach strategy to get in contact with brands that could potentially collaborate with you, and all of my winning templates through the negotiations I've done. If I did create this course, I can also offer Blitzit, my software products, Blitzit and Glorify as part of the package, because I do use Glorify for my YouTube thumbnails, and it's a phenomenal tool for YouTube thumbnails. And I definitely use Blitzit to make sure I stay focused and get things done on time, right? So this could be an interesting play as well. It's focusing on a part-time creator course, because Glorify is suffering, Blitzit is growing but not making enough revenue yet. I need to make that 300K fast, right? So what can I do here? I can create the content. Again, it's a digital product. It's an ever-living asset, and it will generate revenue over time. It's way more high effort than, say, building a template, because I'm creating a whole course and a program. Now, how much would I charge for this program is the question. A lot of people creating courses, I feel like, overprice their courses and their content. I'm not a huge fan of that. And so I would like to come to somewhere that's more reasonable, but still not too cheap. Because it's too cheap, I don't think it'd seem attractive either. And I'm putting a lot of my effort and knowledge into this thing. So I wouldn't want it to be too cheap. So I'm thinking a sweet $399 would be a nice sweet spot. Now, the math behind that is, to get to this figure, I'd have to get 755 sales, right? Which I think is achievable, and I would use a different strategy here. I would also use this to outreach to my Glorify list, and then I have to, of course, get permission from our board, work out the revenue structure and stuff. So it'd be likely, if I did this and get most of the revenue through Glorify, then I'd have to use that revenue that comes from this list specifically for Glorify alone, right? Which is fine, I'm fine with that. At least it gives Glorify its feet. But maybe I'll make some revenue outside of Glorify's mailing list, and that could be 100% mine. And then I could put that into my other businesses that are growing, like Blitzit, for instance, and or even take some time to build out Framer funnels, right? So there's a lot of opportunities here. Thankfully, I've built my entrepreneurial mindset to a level that is unfazed in a sense. Glorify is on 4 months runway. Blitzit doesn't really sustain me as an entrepreneur yet. It's making revenue, and it will make its mark in 6 months, 8 months. If we do a pre-launch campaign, like I said, with Blitzit, and lead up to this big campaign on Black Friday, then you could potentially generate tons of revenue. You could generate that figure, 300,000, if you get all the components right. And then there's Framer funnels. If you put in a lot of hands-on effort, we could build 100 templates and make a big pre-launch campaign, but there's a lot of unknowns there too. Glorify already has a mailing list, and I would not like to run another lifetime deal after running tons of different lifetime deals in the past. It just leaves a bit of a bitter taste to like the existing user base, thinking like, oh, Glorify is always running early adopter campaigns. So maybe I'm leaning towards Blitzit or this part-time creator course, because at least the part-time creator course could also build users for both Blitzit and Glorify. So that's a positive outcome too. So the question is, what do I do, right? So that's what I'd love to leave you guys to discuss within the comments. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I'm going to create more videos like this. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Also check out these recommended videos, you might dig them. Other than that, take care and make sure you never stop building.